Yeah,
And for me, I think it's a really close contest between Kudus and Lookman, as the books will say. However, in terms of my opinion, I think that Lookman, if we're looking at this per the stats, right, I think
yeah,
Lookman deserves. But the eye test tells us that Kudus has been like the best African player because he has been consistent all throughout the season. But the kind of goals that he scored, like even right from his move from Ajax to West Ham, kind of goals that he
yeah.
scored, how he settled within the team, how much he was bailing out his team, and obviously the kind of league that he's in also makes it very easy to see this because a lot of us are watching the Italian league and therefore seeing what Lookman is doing.
Great. Hi, everyone. We are back on the beer parlor. So don't worry, we are here to give you back to back to back episodes since Erasmus loves this part of the Shaft podcast. This is tend to enjoy all the episodes, and then probably we'll go back into my terrain a little bit more. But yeah, there's been several conversations about who would win Africa's Best Player of the Year. I mean, last year was quite obvious because with the kind of outstanding performance Victor Osimhen put up, and also leading Napoli to win the Scudetto, it was much easier to make that decision for himself. Even within that period, we also saw the likes of Mohammed Kudus in Ajax giving some signs, and with his performances against Liverpool in the Champions League, touting himself as a star rising. This season, lots of people touted with Kudus' move to West Ham in the Premier League that he was probably going to be one of the best players from Africa as well. Also, we saw his display in the World Cup in, in helping Ghana, at least trying to salvage the dirty situation that we were in. But we saw some positive praises. People were also looking forward to seeing a re-emergence of Victor Osimhen maintaining his performances. But this year, I think there are probably three players who have really, really done well. Probably even more than three as well, because I just want to give a shout out to Victor Boniface in his performance with Bayern Leverkusen as well, giving very, very superb performances. But his injury woes didn't help him throughout the season, so probably couldn't give much more consistent goal scoring and performances. But this year, popular people, or let's say the majority of people, have narrowed it down to two players, Ademola Lookman and Mohammed Kudus. And I think Ademola Lookman started becoming a very strong candidate in this conversation after the second leg semi-final performance with Atlanta in the Europa League, and then even cemented this conversation as well in the hat trick that he gave in the Europa League final. Not just because he scored a hat trick in the final, but also because it was against Xabi Alonso's Bayer Leverkusen, who had never lost a game throughout the season. And so we are here to discuss who you think should be Africa's player of the season. Is it Ademola Lookman or Mohamed Kudus, with his also impressive performances, stepping into the West Ham team, establishing himself, like carving a niche for himself and just excelling, winning West Ham goal of the season and winning the Europa League goal of the campaign as well. And so we are here to just discuss what you should think, who we think would likely win this particular trophy on the African continent. And I'll begin by asking Erasmus because I always want to put him on the spot and be the safe person in the bet. Erasmus, what do you think about this rivalry that's been pitched? Do you think these two players are actually the players we should be looking at? And then, if yes, we can move on to who we think amongst the two should eventually win the trophy for African Player of the Season of the Year.
Yeah, thank you very much. I love this conversation so much because it centers around African players who I think are some
Yeah,
of the brightest in the world, but sometimes you just don't get a lot of discussion around them and what exactly is going on. So I'm very happy for these two players who have shown all throughout the season and are once again at the highlight or in the toast of the whole of Europe. So it's really incredible to see. However, I just want to
yeah,
start by giving shout outs to some players who have been exceptional this year. One
yeah,
of them is Ayub El Kabi, who plays with Olympiacos and recently won the Europa Conference League. Well, he's Moroccan, is obviously African, and he's one of the top goal scorers for the competition. but not only
yeah,
so, like huge performances against Aston Villa, huge performance against Fiorentina in the final, and I think that he legit deserves a good shout. Mohamed Salah, even though he has not lived up to his levels, has also been exceptional this season, especially at the
yeah,
beginning of the season in terms of the outputs that he had with goals, etc. So
yeah,
these players for me deserve some kind of shout. But obviously, I think the African Player of the Year has always come down to who makes the most noise, right? Because almost everyone ignores, and then once it's
yeah,
getting close, they're like, "Yeah, who do we really remember?"
yeah.
And for me, I think it's a really close contest between Kudus and Lookman, as the books will say. However, in terms of my opinion, I think that Lookman, if we're looking at this per the stats, right, I think
Yeah,
Lookman deserves, but the eye test tells us that Kudus has been like the best African player because he has been consistent all throughout the season with the kind of goals that he scored, like even right from his move from Ajax to West Ham, kind of goals that he
yeah,
scored, how he settled within the team, how much he was bailing out his team, and obviously the kind of league that he's in also makes it very easy to see this because a lot of us are watching the Italian league and therefore seeing what Lookman is doing. But I
yeah.
think for him to bring himself within the conversation and looking at his stats, he probably should get ahead of Mohamed Kudus. And I think
Let
what
me
also comes in,
Yeah, I was about to say, let me quickly run through the stats so that when you mention this, when you reference the stats, people can put that into perspective and put it into context as you have the conversation. So if you take the Serie A, you look at Ademola Lookman, he's played for this 2023-2024 season. He's played 30 matches. He scored 10 goals and had 6 assists. So that's 16 goal contributions. If you take similarly on the club level for Mohamed Kudus, he's played 33 matches, which is 3 matches more, and he scored 8 goals and 6 assists, which I think is 14 goal contributions in terms of goal involvement, goals, and assists. So Lookman obviously has much less matches, but a higher goal involvement. Even though Kudus has more matches, Kudus tends to have a lower goal involvement. So that's on the like club level. If you take the country level, specifically looking at the African Cup of Nations, Lookman played 7 matches. He scored 3 goals and created 1 assist, which makes him 4 goal involvement in 7 matches, which is a really, really impressive stat as well. And if you look at Mohamed Kudus in Ghana, he played 2 matches and scored 2 goals. Just in context, Kudus was injured, I think, at the start of the African Cup of Nations. So he missed, I think, 1 or 2 games at the beginning. But that also shows you the impact Ademola Lookman had on his team in Nigeria, on their lead to the final, versus the impact Kudus had on the Ghanaian team as well. So this is just me putting out the stats. Erasmus, you can continue.
yeah, so I was about to say that there are two ways to look at this purely on
Yeah,
individual performance. You would think Kudus edges Ademola Lookman slightly because he scored wonderful goals, which we've
yeah,
seen be talked about. He won best goal of the season in Europa. He won best goal
yeah.
of the West Ham, part of the goal of the season PL contenders.
Contenders,
No,
yeah,
yes, all these things highlight your individual performance. He's the top dribbler in the whole world.
yeah,
So all of these things highlight that the individual performance for Kudus is high. I think where Kudus fails to shine a bit is with regards to the team. West Ham has not had a great season this year, which means that they've not
yeah,
achieved major trophies. Neither have they achieved like major placements within the league or even in the European competitions when they were kicked out, the point at which they were kicked out. I think it was semi-finals or quarter-finals for them in Europa. So compared with Lookman, who made an AFCON final appearance
yeah,
and was very close to winning the trophy, and I think he was Nigeria's best player. I know all the attention goes to Osimhen, but he was
yeah,
Nigeria's best player, and you see how much he's grown into the game, taking
yeah,
the game on the shoulders consistently, game after game, providing creating chances. And now you have a Atalanta team appearing in the Coppa Italia finals where they lost. I think they were the better team in that final also,
yeah,
but they lost. And then now winning the Europa League trophy. by and with the standout performance of a hat trick in the final, it does look
Yeah,
like Lookman overall has had a better year in terms of
yeah,
uh, the teams or in terms of our overall footballing context. But
yeah,
for Kudus, it seems more isolated to the individual performance which he has shown up.
yeah. I think to be very honest, I agree with what you've said on the individual side versus the team side. And I don't want us to also look at the team performance and take away from Ademola Lookman's individual brilliance. Because even if you just take the Europa League final, for instance, those three goals that he scored to get the hat trick in that final, all of them was boiling down to individual brilliance as well. Because if you look at the first goal, for instance, it's about him knowing and being aware that such a ball can't come to the back post. He literally had to sneak in front of a defender to finish that goal off to give them the edge. And obviously, with the kind of team that we were playing against, he had to be outstandingly clinical and very effective to get those goals. And like we know players get hat tricks all the time. Mbappe's hat trick in the World Cup final, he had two penalties. We know players get hat trick on big stages, but to get hat tricks with such quality goals, that is one of a kind, right? So you look at that individual performance on that stage, and you can clearly tell that he has also had significant individual performances as well. And you clearly tout him as Nigeria's best player in the AFCON, especially at the latter stages of the competition where they needed much more consistency in performances. I personally think that it's more of a matter of media bias and more of exposure as well. That we don't watch a lot of Italian football. We don't look at him week in week out the way in which we see Kudus. Because I looked at some of his highlights. Just went back to watch some of his highlights. Looked at his performance in the final. I'm like, no, this guy is so clinical. I'm shocked at myself for not knowing that he existed. At least, right? In the AFCON, I didn't really pay attention to the AFCON matches, especially with the disgraceful performance from Ghana. The pain just kicked me away from the AFCON a lot. But you look at you look at his performance, and I can also tell you that for a winger, he's probably equally one of the best in Africa, probably the best in Africa. If you are
No,
matching him up with maybe Mohammed Salah, who is currently on the decline as well. So I think beyond the individual performances, beyond the team performances, Ademola Lookman is the one also making those team performances stand out. Without his goals, Atlanta wouldn't have won the Europa League, and so it's essentially him carrying the team to that trophy. So yeah, I tend to agree with you.
yeah, yeah. I think when you look at the stats, even though Ademola has like slightly better stats, one can always argue that the extent of the league you are playing in, how important were you like compared to your team? If your team is creating more chances, scoring more goals,
Yeah,
the proportion of your figures in relation to the team also matters because West Ham didn't score a lot
yeah.
and conceded a lot. So I think there's a way to put it in context, but I think overall, the gut feeling that you get is that look, this guy has like, Kudus will
Yeah,
definitely have more opportunities to shine to win things for his team, but this guy has now come to the party. And Ademola Lookman is a player I'd followed for a while. Seeing him, his raw talent is exceptional. He just
yeah.
had some consistencies in terms of his physicality and in terms of his
Yeah.
confidence. But the player that I've seen this season, especially in that final, is a scary player because he's very
See,
small and he's
very
fast.
scary, very fast,
And
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 very
when
sharp in his execution of
yes,
shots and goals,
yes,
bro.
it's called a quick timing release. So most players who are very quick are accused of being non-accurate. They can't be accurate with their
Yeah,
shots.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Don't their shots very well and accurately. He and Callum Hudson-Odoi, like this season, I've seen that the way in which they release shots of their foot is crazy and it's powerful.
yeah.
His shots are very, very, very powerful, and for
Very,
a very small man, it's incredible. I think for me as a winger, this is why he takes on defenders. He's not one of those wingers
yeah.
who is looking to pass around, and we make a lot of hype
So,
and
so
noise
he's
about someone.
not Anthony.
He's not Anthony. I mean, if Anthony is going for 100 million, I think Lookman goes for 150.
300, 300
Yeah, but
million
because
boss.
it's not Brazilian, it's because it's not Brazilian, you don't get. And this is what we're talking
Yeah,
about in terms of African players. Because this guy
yeah,
is who can walk into.
He's
almost any team in the
exceptional.
world right now
Right now, I think
in
so.
on
I
the
think so.
wings. But
Because yeah, I looked at like Man United's winger situation with Rashford, and I was the only thing I thought was like sell him, and go and buy Lookman. Because sell him. The only fear is that United will come and spoil him, come and put his talent into the bins. But
as
sell
always,
that guy and replace him with Lookman and put Ganacho on the other side or Ahmad and put Hoyland through the middle, and you have like very, very lethal front three who are much more likely to be making sensible decisions as well. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. People might say that, like, look, maybe um, as Ghanaians, you should be rooting for Kudus and all that, and not necessarily touting Lookman. But here's the thing: first of all, this is about African Player of the Year. I think Ghanaian Player of the Year, almost everybody would agree that it's Mohammed Kudus, but it's about African Player of the Year. And the same way was undeniable for Osimhen last year. I don't think it's too much of a gap, like to look at Lookman and say like he's up there. And again, people will talk about this team performance versus individual performance. I think again last year it was also down to the kind of team performance that Osimhen has had outside of his individual performance. He chipped in the goals, but if he does what Hurricane did and still had his team bottling the league, nobody would have touted him that much because it would have still been hidden in the stories of struggling Napoli and all that. But last season, Napoli won the league and he was superb, and that elevated the story around him, which is similar to what has happened to Lookman now. He performed on the highest of stages and it elevated him into the conversation. So, obviously, that's a good one. Obviously, we are looking forward to you guys. Let us know your thoughts, your comments in the comment section, whether you agree or disagree. The Ghanaians, sure, we know you might come for us, but hey, it's part of conversations and we're looking forward to it. For the Nigerians, don't celebrate too much because the Jollof debate you guys lost. So maybe now you've won Ademola Lookman. Let's keep it on the low. Yeah,
I
Erasmus,
just want
final words.
yeah, I just wanted to say that like on on another note, I think these two players are ones to watch for.
Yeah.
Mohamed Kudus, I'm one of those who advocates that if Liverpool know what's good, they should be taking him for that right wing before he
They
settles
should.
in the wing
They
because
should.
he's going to be snapped up by Bekla, and he's that kind of player that he fits the Liverpool um,
Yeah.
culture of work ethic, quiet,
High
but
press. Yeah.
but just doing the job. So I think he's on for bigger things. I know Arsenal has also put in some interest. So I think these boys are going to get either big moves or their status within their clubs is going to increase, especially in the
Increase.
next.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to someone like Boniface settling better with
Yeah.
his team and lead the line. And I know there are a couple of others who were hyped getting into the season, especially from Nigeria.
Yeah.
Players like Nicholas Jackson are more likely going to have very, very good seasons after this one. So we should definitely be on the lookout for them and continue to support African talent.
Yeah. I know that Nicholas Jackson one was because of Chelsea, but okay. But yeah,
Yeah,
thanks everyone. Thanks
he has
everyone
better
for
stats.
listening.
He
I'm
has
not
better
debating you
stats.
on this one. I'm not
Lookman
debating you on this one.
and Kudus.
Oh, Erasmus, I'm not debating you on this one. Thanks everyone. See you on the next one and leave your comments in the comment section. Bye guys.